Hey everyone, I'm super excited that the pledging for the VFX Horde is now over and we can get to our daily sessions. So these daily sessions are going to be available to everybody to watch. I'm going to be making YouTube videos where I'm critiquing people's work. So your name, if it's on this list, then you are going to be participating in these daily sessions and you will be submitting your work for feedback. So I've set the date for that. It's going to be June 7th that I'm going to be collecting people's work and then creating a video where I'm giving people feedback. But before we get to the 7th, we need to talk about how to be successful at these daily sessions. And this information is, a lot of it is just general information about how to be successful at dailies. So you can keep watching even if your name is not on this list. So the number one thing is to participate in dailies. So you need to prepare your work, submit it on time so that it can be reviewed, and make sure you're hitting every single dailies so that you can get the most out of this experience. So number 2 would be to follow the shot brief. The shot briefs are there to challenge you, at the same time make sure that the work that you're doing on the shot is manageable and that you can have a nice demo reel piece. So the next thing would be to follow art direction. You should treat me and the feedback that I'm giving you like I'm a client or an art director. So you should religiously follow what I'm telling you to do, because what I'm telling you to do will make your work better. And we're going to be talking about that in the next thing here, which is you need to be focused on finaling shots. So to better illustrate how to be focused on finaling shots, I'm going to talk to you about something called the review funnel, okay? So it starts out really wide at the top and gets quite narrow at the bottom. So right at the beginning is concept, and we're going to be talking about the phases of your work. So the first thing is concept, and you can see that's at the widest point of this funnel. And then you get into first look, you get into second look, you get into final, and then you get it into any kind of tech fixes at the end, okay? So your work here goes into the funnel. And the goal of this whole funnel is to get your work to pop out the bottom end, which is your work is finaled, okay? So right at the beginning, you have, during the concept phase and first look and all the way down to the end, you start out having a lot of ability to change your work, right? Right at the concept phase, you're throwing around ideas, you're being creative, but then after you get from the concept into a first look, you need to lock in the look and you need to progress your shot forward. So the more you go down the funnel, the less ability you have to make big sweeping changes, okay? So there are things that make your work, even if it's down near the bottom of the funnel, to pop back out of the funnel, okay? And the number 2, there's 2 reasons primarily why this will happen. Is number 1 is client changes. You're not going to have client changes here. I will redirect your work and help you refine your work. So I may ask to have another iteration on things. So that may push you back up a little bit, I guess. But primarily, that comes from people. So especially people that are, in a circumstance like this, that are building things for their demo reel, they have a tendency to kind of rework things and rework things and rework things and never bring their concept, their demo reel pieces down to a final level. So the whole point of these daily sessions is to get you demo reel pieces. And in order to get you demo reel pieces, you have to follow this funnel. You have to be able to commit. And like I said, for these daily sessions, I will be guiding and directing you so you can have the confidence that maybe you didn't have before, that you're making right and correct choices, okay? So what you don't want to do, so this would be a bad scenario, is that you go through the concept, first look, second look, like we have in the diagram here, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't really like the look of this. And so you go through and you change a bunch of stuff. So now it was getting close to being finaled, and now you kind of decide you want to change it, and so it kicks it way back up, back into the concept phase. And so now that it's in the concept phase, it has to be looked at again, and it has to go down the funnel again to finalize it. Okay, so this diagram doesn't just apply to the dailies that we're going to be holding. This applies to any work in visual effects. You want to make sure that your work is progressing at a measured rate and that you can actually get finals out of your work and you're not wasting time by kicking your work back up into previous phases and then having to go down again, because that just takes time. And like I said, primarily, in the context of we're doing our dailies, the kicking that back up would be from you. I may, tell you to rework some things, and that may push you back up and may require you to have more iterations on it and more times that I see it in dailies. But, we just want to make sure that at the end of these dailies that you get some really solid pieces and that you're not reworking, but you're actually making progress. So because we're starting at the beginning of the funnel with our first daily session on June 7th, we are only going to be looking at DMP concepts, okay? So a DMP concept is very, very different than a pre-visualization concept in a lot of different ways. So the DMP concept is a quick visualization. So you do really quick work to figure out what the client wants, right? To get feedback. So in this case, you would be doing quick visualizations to get my feedback on your work. So the idea is that you don't do a ton of work into it, but you do some iterations and you pick the best one. So we'll be talking a little bit about that later. So the next one is that you use photographic reference and 3D, like quick renders of 3D assets. You don't use any paint work. You can mask elements. You can transform elements. You can use adjustment layers to relight, do a quick relighting, but no paint work on top, okay? So the paint work that you do in DMP is at the very, very end, and so you have to hold yourself off from making your work look too painterly. So at this stage for the DMP concept, you only use those elements. So the next one is that you do this DMP concept to make an audit of the materials that you have available, okay? So you go through the photographic reference that you have, the library, you pick out the things, you throw them in your shot, and you're checking what you have available to you. And you make the concept out of what you have available to you. So you use high resolution images. You don't pull things off the internet that are low resolution and base concepts off of those. Because the next thing is that this DMP concept is not just a concept, it is a promise to deliver or to execute on your concept. So if you go through and you pull a bunch of reference online, and it's low resolution photography, and you do a bunch of paint work and you make things up, and then you're like, here's my concept. And when you're doing visualization for visual effects, pre-visualization or concept work, then they actually want the final shot to look exactly like the concept or a better version, but exactly like the concept. So you have to use high resolution images that you can turn into a matte painting. So your DMP concept should be at the double resolution. And really, a DMP concept is just the beginning of your matte painting, just a really quick visualization, a bash of your matte painting. And that's how you should approach it. So what I'm going to be looking for you when you do your concept, you need to make a DMP wedge. And what a wedge is, it's just a progression that shows change, okay? So the first thing is that you'll provide a couple of frames. The first frame is a title card with date and information, and I will give you this title card that you can change in Photoshop, and it'll just have your name, some information, and a date on it. So that's, very necessary for keeping track of your progress and how things change. So all visual effects studios typically, when you're presenting concept work for a DMP, when you put it through their review system, it's going to automatically put a title card in there with some critical information. So the next thing, frame number 2, is the original plate. So this is unchanged original plate. The frame 3 would be concept number 1, okay? And frame 4 would be concept number 2. So I'm asking that you guys do 2 different concepts. That means that you don't develop just two different concepts. That means you develop a lot of different concepts, and from those variety of concepts that you make for a particular shot, you pick 2 of the best ones that you think are there, okay? And I will, during that daily session, I will help you pick which concept is the best option for you, okay? So in those daily sessions, I may be like, hey, concept 1, that's the thing you should go for, or hey, concept 2, that's the one you should go for. Or I can be like, hey, you actually need to take pieces of concept 1 and pieces of concept 2 and put them together, okay? So that's kind of how it will roll. And so when you deliver things to me for the daily session, I'm expecting 4 frames, which makes up a DMP wedge. Like I said, of the title card, original plate, concept 1, and concept 2. So you may be, thinking like, how do I have access to 27 shots from all 4 or 6 of these sequences? How do I, narrow it down? What if I want to work on 10 different shots or something like that? What I would recommend is that you focus on 1 or 2 shots and get 1 or 2 shots fully to final, and at least get through the first couple stages before you start more. Because if you spread yourself too thin with these shots, then that will make it difficult for you to really progress on that, because it may be easy to whip out these concepts, but to do finals on all of these would be quite difficult. So you would be much better to go through these daily sessions and get 1 or 2 or 3 pieces for your demo reel fully finaled and complete, instead of having 10 shots that are half baked and not bring anything to final. So I would limit your choice of the things that you're working on to 1 or 2 concept pieces or 1 or 2 shots for now, so that you can make sure that you get through that and you can actually get some finals. And that's it. I'm super excited to be doing these dailies. And if you're not on this list of 12 people, you will still be able to watch the daily sessions and to learn a ton from the feedback that I'm giving. And it's really good to be hearing that, because even if you're not directly participating, at some point you will be. If you've pledged to get access to one of the sequences, or you're going to get access to these sequences when they become available to the public later this year, then you are going to be much more prepared to really nail it on these sequences. So I encourage everybody to watch and to learn a ton from these daily sessions. So again, we're going to be doing it on June 7th. I'm going to be providing more information on how to submit your work to me at that time, and good luck.